Namaskar. The last episode we did on the United States mulling to peg it to a gold standard, that is, peg the United States dollar to the gold standard, has evoked a lot of interest from all of you. Here is a bigger picture, at the same time very important, because Trump has announced that he is going to be visiting Fort Knox either today or tomorrow, something like that. There is a lot of interest now in why the President of the United States, one of the most powerful men on earth, wants to visit Fort Knox. So is there some truth in what we were saying, that perhaps not all gold in Fort Knox is completely gold? So all this stuff, we did a fair amount of deep dive research. We also are going to compare how much official gold each country has, and this we're going to compare from United States all the way down to like the top 10, if you will, and that comes as part of this slide deck. It's a very important slide deck because you need to understand what is the real situation if the United States dollar starts getting pegged to gold, because it's a country like India, it has a lot of ramifications. It will also tell you how wise our grandmas and our great grandmas were when they used to store all their wealth on their body in the form of gold jewelry. All this and more in this episode. Let's go with the slide deck now. How much gold was ever discovered and who has how much? Remember, the value of Bitcoin is so high now because there is a top limit on how much mining you can do. I think 23 million Bitcoins or something. We're already at 21 million Bitcoins or somewhere in that. Don't kill me for the numbers being approximate. It's to give you an idea that there is a top ceiling and we are almost there. Same way, how much gold was ever extracted from all the mines in the world? What is the real number? Because with respect to that number is what each one will be finding out where they stand. Now, gold has been a coveted metal for the longest time. We know that, somebody like, for example, a king, his throne was made of gold, at least gold-plated. The most important temples, most historical temples had gold kavach on top of their kalash. Golden temple, for example. Chidambaram temple, part of that has golden kavach. Same thing with the Shiva temple in Kashi, where there are 3 shikharas, and 2 of them are supposed to have a gold plating done, and both were done by Ranjit Singh, Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the greatest Sikh ruler. And Sikhism now, all these Khotistanis keep saying that we are not Hindus. Bullshit. You are as Hindu as I am. So we have to understand the reality here. Anyway, let's get back to this. The total amount of gold ever mined, all of it from centuries immemorial, is just 216,265 metric tons. 1 metric ton, just to, sometimes people loosely use tons versus metric ton. The difference is minor, but it is significant. I'll tell you what it is. 1 metric ton, because it is MKS system, metric, right, is 1,000 kilos. Okay. 1 ton, on the other hand, which is a British system, is 2,000 pounds. Now, we know 1 kilo is equal to 2.2 pounds, right? So 1 metric ton is 2,200 pounds. Close enough, 10% off. So metric ton is a little bit bigger than the ton. Okay, so about 2/3 of this total has been extracted since 1950, highlighting enhancements in mining technology and increased demand. So since 1950, that is the last 74 years, a lot of extraction took place. Almost 2/3 of whatever we have said as a number has taken place. Now, this is what has been taken out so far. What is left, nobody really knows, because there is still a fair amount of earth that has not been scoped for gold, and we don't know how deep the gold is. Some of the mines in South Africa are really, really deep. That's because South Africa has been producing, they have this streak that goes down, and they have been following that streak, and they have been getting more and more gold. So what is the actual size of the gold that has been ever mined? If you try to construct a cube out of it, it would be roughly 23 meters on each side, and therefore it is not really a big number. 1 meter, you know how big it is, 23 meters. It will be like a, half a block or something like that. That's it. That's it. That is what makes it so compelling, that it is not a infinite number, and therefore there is a limit to how much one can mine gold, and that's what increases its value. Plus, gold doesn't oxidize; it stays the same throughout, and that is also another thing. Like silver oxidizes, the next equivalent is silver, right? Silver oxidizes. You can think of platinum, but platinum is too rare. See all these things. So gold is just at that perfect point where you could use that as the primary asset in any central bank's balance sheet. The number one, the prime asset is how much gold it has. And I'm going to come to that in just a moment on how much gold each country has. Also, private gold. In the United States, there is not much private gold, but in countries like India, it's a whole new ball game. What does that make to the country's purchasing power? We will discuss that also. So let's go to the next slide, please. So what has been happening is, in the recent years, central banks, particularly from emerging economies, have increased their gold purchases. In fact, you know that India hypothecated about 300 metric tons of gold to Bank of England during the crisis in the 1990s. And I think India has gotten back 100, and there is still 200 still pending. And by the way, whenever a country makes a request to the Bank of England for its own gold to be repatriated back, it's taking up to 6 months, I heard now. No, I can't explain why it is taking 6 months. Is the Bank of England scraping together? What is really going on? Nobody really knows. The recent request from, I think, Germany, it was, took 6 months before the Bank of England gave them the money, the gold back. So, like I said, many countries are taking back the gold that was kept in the Bank of England deposit. So this is like a run on the gold in Bank of England. Same thing, JP Morgan Chase, I think they took out $4 billion worth of gold recently. So there is something happening, and it has to do with gold, and gold can only be good news for India because we covet gold, and we are gold is part of our lives. Akshaya Tritiya day, there is even the poorest Indian wants to buy some gold on that day because it is considered very, very srisht. Okay, so in 2024, central banks added over 1,000 metric tons of gold to their reserves, marking the third consecutive year of such significant acquisitions. So this is not just what was hypothecated for whatever reasons in Bank of England. The central banks are actually actively buying gold from the market. And in fact, I'll also stick out my neck and say, today's prosperity of Dubai is because of some of the skewed policies of the Indian government in the 1950s, when they used to have a very high taxation for import of gold, which led to gold smuggling, which led to Haji Mastan, which led to Dawood Ibrahim. Only now we have kind of woken up after the 1990s and said, let's not have such a high taxation. In fact, even the 2024 budget, if I remember correctly, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman reduced the import of duty on gold, and that has actually reduced the smuggling into Kerala somewhat. However, it is being smuggled for a different reason. You have to read my book, Who Painted My Money White, to understand why. There are people, there are communities in India actively still entertaining the thought that they will be able to engineer a revolution and that they can come back to power, believe it or not. In 2025, central banks are expected to remain in the driving seat, and gold ETF investors are going to join the fray. What is an exchange traded fund? See, what it is there are, let's say there are 5 companies that are manufacturing gold, and all those companies, depending on what deposits they find and mine, how much they produce, their stock goes up and down. So you can have an exchange traded fund where these, let's say there's 5 big gold producers. You create an ETF out of that, giving weightage depending upon how much they extract, and then that gets traded in the market. It's like an average of 5 gold producers. I'm just making it up, okay? So these people also, in some of their contracts, can actually sign it in saying that I have so much money in my ETF for gold, and I can actually put this money down and get paid in gold in return. Some of them do. So that is also putting extra pressure, because this is not an actual physical stock. It is a derivative. ETF is a derivative. So even some of the derivatives are now asking for gold back in lieu of the money they have invested. So this is also causing pressure on the banks. Now, which are the countries that are piling up with their gold? Poland, Turkey, India, Azerbaijan, and China. And they have been trying to diversify their holdings and reduce reliance on the United States dollars. So this is where things are now. Next one, please. Now, why is there this surge? See, what happened was, I think from 2008 onwards, this is not a recent phenomenon. When the 2008 Great Recession hit because of the real estate crisis in the United States, what happened? Ben Bernanke, the then Fed, he started printing money. He called it as quantitative easing, to put more money into the system, and that essentially had no backing because it was fiat currency, right? So since then, US has been printing currency as if there is no tomorrow. And it's only Trump that has tried to come and put a crimp on that to try and stop that unmitigated printing, and try to see where there are excesses, and also try to maintain the reference of the United States dollar as the reference currency for the world, reserve currency for the world. Because BRICS is beginning to now pose some hard questions. Why would the BRICS country want to just keep on accepting US dollar as the reference when they are not holding any kind of a limit to how much they are printing, right? It's a fair question. And in fact, Americans also are getting diluted, because there is more dollars now chasing the same goods that used to be there yesterday. What does it mean? It means things are going to cost more, which means inflation goes up, which means fixed income earners are going to feel the pinch. You get the idea, right? So that's one reason why people are turning towards gold. The second reason is that, let's say, for example, Russia got sanctioned in 2022 for going into Ukraine, and China is facing sanctions. India has faced sanctions in the past. So how do you sanction-proof your economy? You do that by relying less on the United States dollar, relying less on the United States economy or trade, and also trading amongst yourselves in a currency other than the United States dollar. When India buys crude from Russia in rupees, it irritates the heck out of dollars. Remember, I told you this. Any country-to-country purchase has to be settled in Houston. And Houston likes to get a small cut in all these things. Of course, they do some services. They act like escrow. They give you insurance if you want to have insurance, things of that nature. But US likes to police over the entire crude distribution happening across the world. So countries, when India starts paying for Russia's crude in rupees, then the US dollar is cut out of it, right? And it also means that India is cocking a snook at US, saying that I don't need your dollar anymore. So these are all, while you have friendship on top, they have all these underlying frictions going on. And it remains to be seen what's going to happen now that the talks have picked up as far as ending the conflict with Ukraine is concerned for Russia, how it's going to. I'm hearing a lot of things. We'll do that as a separate episode. Let's stay on gold now. Understanding the distribution and accumulation of gold offers insight into the global economic strategies that individual countries are trying to employ so that they don't suffer the dilution. The biggest sufferer today of unmitigated printing of the US dollar is the US customer, the US citizen, because in US you can only use the dollar. You can say, okay, I can buy for something using Bitcoin. Not everybody has a Bitcoin, and plus one Bitcoin is $100,000. You don't have. If you wanted to buy a $150 item, right? So there are people who allow you to break down one Bitcoin, but that's a matter for a different day. So you get the idea. So countries are trying to diversify the strategies. They're trying to sanction proof their economies, and getting into gold market is one such move. Next, please. Fort Knox. Now, this is the most important thing being talked about, because this is a place where the United States has its gold deposit. It is in the state of Kentucky. There was a movie called Goldfinger, a James Bond movie, that talks about getting into the vaults of Fort Knox and so on and so forth. If you have watched it, you'll understand what I mean. This came in the 60s, as a matter of fact. It holds close to 4,583 metric tons of gold, valued at approximately 300 billion. I'm just rounding it off. As of 2020, it was 290. I'm going to give you the latest number in just a moment, because this is not all the place where the US gold is placed. There's another place also that US keeps its gold. Let's go to the next slide, please. So the Fort Knox security is very, very impressive. It features a steel reinforced granite lined concrete vault with a 21-inch thick 20-ton steel door. 1 inch is about this much. So 21 inches is 21 times this. So you can imagine how thick a concrete vault it is. The vault is set on a 100-hour time lock. The access requires multiple staff members with separate combinations. Each one has to stand and do something in one system, and only when everything is correct will the vault open. And it has been surrounded by razor wire, and it's monitored with night vision cameras and microphones. The facility is protected by the US Mint Police. Next, please. And during World War II, it stored the original US Constitution, the Declaration of Independence of the United States, as well as the Magna Carta. This is the British signing. I think it was 12th century or 13th century. It houses rare coins, including 10 1933 double eagle gold coins and 12 Sacagawea dollar coins flown on the space shuttle Columbia. You can see the pictures here. Now, these gold bars in Fort Knox are stored as 400 troy ounces. That means 12.4 kilos each. It's a pretty heavy thing to carry, even a single one. The average gold fineness, meaning purity of gold, is 90 to 91.7%, with the newer bars reaching 99.9% purity. If you remember, I had talked about this in a totally unrelated case about MCX. That's a stock exchange in India. If you go back and look at some of the videos on MCX, you'll understand what is the difference between 99.5% purity versus 99.9% purity, and how a brilliant investor, entrepreneur figured out that this is an easy way to make money. The whole founding of the MCX and so on and so forth. It's a different matter that under Chidambaram, a cabal of crooks have taken over this thing, and they are still running it, and Modi has done nothing about it. These are all the reasons why I feel upset about the Modi government performance, because in finance they have not been able to bring some very, very needed changes. I mean, some people are getting looted blind right now. Most gold was held as security for 11 billion in gold certificates issued to the Federal Reserve Bank. So it looks like some gold-backed certificates are also issued, and these things also can be redeemed. Any bank that holds these certificates and say, okay, I want the gold back. I don't want to keep this paper saying that I have so much gold. See, once panic sets in, right, everybody wants to cover their behind. And we don't know how much oversubscription has taken place. Next one, please. So we talked about Fort Knox. That's one place where gold is stored. There's another place where gold is stored, and that is the New York Fed's main building in Manhattan, and it is stored at 80 feet below street level. 80. That is 8 floors, if you think about it. And it has approximately 507,000 gold bars weighed at 6,331 metric tons. I must caution you that not all of this is US governments. Okay, because the total amount that the United States has is 8134 metric tons, not 6331 plus the 4500 in Fort Knox. That will give you a number close to 11,000. No, the 6331 is a total that is in US Fed. So the exact number according to the books in the United States is that US has 8134 metric tons. And now let's take a look at how much this 8134 metric ton is worth. Let's go to the, can you bring up the other screen, please? So I did a back of the envelope calculation. Okay, now I used that 8134 metric tons and I multiplied that by 35274, which is the number of ounces in a metric ton, 35274, and that gives you the number 286918716. That's the number. And today's gold price is $2952 per ounce. So as of today's price, the amount of gold that the United States government has is worth that number below, the one that starts with 846, and let's round it up to 850, and that is $850 billion. This is accurate as of today, because the price of gold is changing, and also the purity of gold is assumed to be 99.9%. That's not true, we know, so it will be a little bit less than this. You get the idea. See, these are all big picture numbers. $850 billion worth of gold is what the United States has. And what is United States deficit now? 36 trillion. This is what I had told in the first episode, that if you want to, so and interestingly, the value in the assets book of the United States Treasury for this gold is $46 an ounce. See, the spot market value is 2952. That doesn't care about how the US is putting the value of the gold it has on its accounting books. So you can make the argument that the US could actually increase the price of gold on its accounting books. And if you take this thing all the way up to, I think, 140 or something like that, instead of the 2,900 that I have put, that is the street price value. This 850 billion is street price value. But if I take that number from 46 and make it to 100,000, then this number will go up. It will start going up into trillions. This is just a valuation as far as the US is concerned. So something interesting is going to happen. And I have a feeling that US dollar is going to be pegged to some version of gold, where they'll say, okay, this is the exchange rate between $1 and gold. And there will be some way to go from one domain to the other. Not all of it maybe, but some money you may be able to give and get gold in exchange, because that's what people normally ask for. Let's get back to the slide deck, please. I hope you are keeping up with me thus far, because this is a bit of numbers and at the same time some logic, some reasoning. Now, the vault, this is the US Fed vault in New York. It holds gold for US government, foreign governments, central banks, and international organizations. That's why I said that the 6331 is not just US bank. It's also got some other things. And no private individuals or companies can store gold in the vault. Next one, please. Now, how does one transport gold? Gold bars are moved via elevator and verified for weight, refiner markings, and fineness. Deposits are stored in 122 compartments, each dedicated to a single account holder. All these things is explained in great detail in the reference links provided in the description section of this video. I encourage you all to go and take a look at it. In fact, they have actually school trips organized. You can go and take a look at some of these things if you take your children and you happen to be in New York. Small deposits are placed in a shared library compartment with individually numbered shelves. Next one, please. So as far as the New York Fed security is concerned, it's a 90-ton steel cylinder seals the vault only entry, which is set within a 140-ton frame. It's pretty secure. Once closed, the vault is airtight and watertight with steel rods and time clocks securing the door. Reinforced concrete walls, motion sensors, cameras, and 24/7 surveillance ensure security. The armed Federal Reserve Police Force protects the building. So there it was somebody else, the US Mint Police in Fort Knox. Here it is the US Federal Reserve Police. Now, there are some unique features also. The bars cast before 1986 were rectangular bricks. Today they are trapezoidal. If you happen to be in a gold business, like for example, if you are a jeweler, you might be seeing these bricks now. Since 1986, they are trapezoidal in form. So you can see I'll show you when we get zoomed in. I'll show you the trapezoidal bricks. There are some slight modifications. The alloys also. Copper is there, silver is there, bronze, silver, platinum, iron, and copper. All of them are there, and based on what gets added to the gold, the color changes. For example, if you have whitish gold bar, it is because it's got silver and platinum in it. If it is reddish, then it's copper, and greenish, it means iron. Gold is returned to owners as deposited. Deposits are not fungible. What this means is, this is very important. What you put in is what you take out. See, India tried something very funny in 2015, in my opinion. They said to the private investors that we can hold your gold for you and we can pay you a nominal interest. But in that, they also said that we will actually take your gold, melt it down into gold bars and keep it safe in gold bars. I don't know which great person thought that it has to be melted down. I think the reason is they were suspecting that the gold may not be as pure as claimed by the owner. So how does one fix it? The way to fix it is not to melt it down. There are equipment that is available. They do spectroscopy check, and it's like a microwave oven. Think about it. It's like a microwave oven. You put your jewelry inside that, and then you close the door and tell it, evaluate it. It puts some rays and it finds out what is the composition of the thing in there, and it will spit it out for you. It will tell you how much gold, how much other things are there. And from there, you could have done it, and the jewelry stays intact. Because many of us are sentimentally attached. My great grandma's necklace, my aunt's wrist brace, and things of that nature. So that never took off anywhere. The reason, I'll tell you why India wanted to take that into the thing, and there's a good reason why they wanted to do that. It's just that the way you implement these things, this is where the minister's own thinking capacity and being able to be connected to the ground makes a huge difference. Bureaucracy is going to try and always give you a foolproof method. The foolproof method is, of course, to melt it down to find out the purity of gold. But there are other ways to do it. They didn't do it. Anyway, gold is returned to owner as deposited. It's not fungible, means it can't be changed. Vault visits are possible for school groups via the New York Fed's Museum and Learning Center. Those of you who happen to live in the New York area can actually take your children on a school visit and to show them how this gold is being stored. It will be a very big, it's a very interesting trip. The New York Fed values gold at the official, I told you about this, right? $42 per troy ounce rather than the daily market price, because they don't want it to fluctuate. Neither the New York Fed nor the Federal Reserve owns any of the gold. The vault's gold holdings peaked at 12,000 tons in 1973, driven by global deposits made during and after World War II. But now again, like I said, it's now back to 6,331 or something of that nature. Next one, please. So this is like, this has gotten into the English lexicon as safe as the Fort Knox, because it is so secure. And I think that was why Goldfinger was shot, to poke a finger at that, to make it poke fun at it. The New York Feds, of course, the good guy wins at the end. James Bond rescues humanity, and but you have to see the movie. The New York Fed's triple verification system ensures that gold is never accessed by a single individual. And Fort Knox gold supports a fraction of the collateral for the Federal Reserve notes in the US monetary system. See here, you can see the trapezoidal shape of the gold. This is how the new bars are made. They are not kept as rectangular. It may have to do with gold's weight distribution. Next one, please. Now comes the interesting part. How much gold reserves are in which country? Because we are going to give you, I think, the top 10, and you can look at who has how much, and a percentage of countries' foreign exchange reserves held in gold. This is an important number also, because the foreign exchange reserves are slightly different from how much money you have and how you value your currency. There is a slight difference. I don't want to go into all that now because that will be a session on its own. There are other experts who may be able to weigh on it better. But just look at this number. Higher the number, better it is. USA has 8,133.5 metric tons. And that number, percentage of countries' foreign exchange reserves held in gold is 74.9%. Next, please. The second biggest is in Germany, 3,351.5, 74.4%. If you go back to the previous one, 74.9 for US, 74.4 for Germany. Next, please. Number 3 is Italy at 2,451.8 metric tons, and its percentage is 70.8%. Next. France is 4th at 2,437 and it's 72.2%. Next. Russia is 5th, 2,332.7, 29.5%. Next. China is at 6th, 2,279, 5.5%. Switzerland is at 7th, 1,039.9, 9.6%. India is 8 at 876.1 metric tons and its percentage is 11.3. It's better than China. I mean, if you're looking for trying to be better than somebody else, but there's a number that is outside of this that's very, very interesting as far as India is concerned. Next one, please. Japan is at what is the next number? 845.9 and 5.7%. Turkey is 765, 41.4%. And I think that was the last one. So, you know now the top 10 countries that have gold in their deposit. In fact, Canada sold all of its gold a few years ago. And Canada believes that they have mines, they can mine more gold if needed. And maybe that is one reason. Be that as it may, Canada is in a whole category by itself. Let's not discuss about it. Let's get back to India. Now, the number that was initially said, remember, was, let's go back to the first slide or the second slide. Just go to the second slide, please. Back up to the second slide. No. Second, from the beginning. Yeah. Next one. Yeah. See here, the total amount of gold ever mined is estimated to be 216,265 metric tons. 216,260. Round it off. 220,000 metric tons. 2.2 lakh metric tons. Right? Now, if you look at how much gold is there in India's temples, the official version, if you go and look at all the links, it will tell you the number is between 3,000 tons, 3,000 metric tons to 4,000 metric tons. It is believed that number, the closest number, real number, because we don't want to tell there will be a big raid on temples once you tell where, how much. The total number is 35,000 tons. 35,000 metric tons is in the temples of India. Next, how much do the private individuals in India own in terms of gold? Remember, I don't know how many of you remember, I'll tell you this. Gold was actively discouraged to be held as a savings in the United States. In fact, that's why they started promoting diamond. And De Beers stepped in and said, diamond is a woman's best friend. This took place some years ago. I don't remember the exact time, but you have to go back and read the history of the United States. So in US, people don't really have a lot of personal gold. And the little gold that they have, like in the form of jewelry, it's also 14 karat. It's not 22 carat like in India, because the reason India doesn't wear 24 carat jewelry, 24 carat gold jewelry is 100% gold, but 100% gold is too soft, and it can actually rub off on your skin, and you will start losing gold. So to strengthen gold, you add copper to it, and that's how you get 22 carat. 22 carat is the properly done jewelry that is worn in India. So do you want to know how much personal wealth of India is in gold in terms of metric tons? 43,000 metric tons. You add up those two numbers, that comes out to 43,000 plus 35,000 metric tons. 78,000 metric tons. Remember that big number. The top number is 216,000, right? Almost 1/4 of the gold ever mined in the world is with India. Now you understand why in 2015, India, the then Finance Minister Arun Jaitley was putting out the scheme saying that we would like to encourage you to hold this gold, because India wanted to increase that number from 841 tons, whatever the number I told you, 841 metric tons, up to a slightly bigger number, or to bring it on par with, say, China or with United States. Now, there are others who say that China has been buying so much gold in the open market and in the black market that they may actually have 30,000 metric tons of gold today. 30,000. But even that pales in comparison with what India has. And the Indian wealth is distributed. You can't go to one place and say, okay, I'll attack this place and take all the gold and then make India poor. See the wisdom of our grandmas. So India is sitting in a very pretty position. If the United States says that, okay, we are pegging the US dollar back to gold, then the individual gold worth in every household in India will make them feel like, oh, if we do this thing and if we can compare this with what the US has pegged for the gold value, we are worth so much. I mean, it's a thought, that's all. I mean, you still have to find a way to sell it to US and make the money off of it. I don't think that's going to happen. They're just going to make a nominal value and say, okay, this is the value and this is how we are going to adjust the balance sheet, and therefore instead of 36 trillion, now the balance sheet looks 0, 10, or whatever the number that they are going to arrive at. I hope you understood the importance of gold. Gold has been the most important metal throughout the history of mankind. And things are looking very interesting. Now I'll take a few questions. Mangatranga wants to know, Namaskaram, if Ukraine-Russia war ends, will the seized assets of Russia be returned? Is there Bharat's gold still in London, and should it be got back? Will Bharat have any guarantees for such gold? All good questions, Ranga. Let one by one. The seized assets of Russia be returned? You mean like in the Western banks? There will be some way of taking it down. I think there's a 1 to 3 year window, because Russia is going to be demanded of, they're going to ask Russia, you need to do this, and as and when they take each of those steps, there will be some amount of money that will go back. That is the phased way, graded way in which the money will be returned back. Bharat's gold, I am told that 200 metric tons is still sitting in the vaults in Bank of England, and like I said, even if Bharat makes a request for it, it is taking up to 6 months for them to give you the gold. So maybe it's already there, maybe it's already put in, and India is waiting to get its gold back. See, for the longest time, India just let it be there because they figured the cost to transport it is more than the cost of just keeping it there, or the worth of the gold. But now that the gold value has gone up to $2,952 today, this is worth it now. And what are the guarantees? I don't know. It's a sovereign guarantee. The third part of your question, will Bharat have any guarantees? In theory, Bank of England should give you what you kept there. Next one, please. Apolitically Center 69. Any update on Trump's election campaign promise of granting green cards to international students passing out from prestigious universities in USA? Not yet. I think that will be coming up in the days and weeks to come. Just give us a few days. We'll give you the update on that. Neil Aluwalia wants to know, please comment. Somebody in London said around 2002, thank God we have lost the last clutches of gold for good. No, there is gold. Gold is being taken out of Bank of England vaults now. No, there is gold. Next one, please. It is just that they have built a huge derivative market out of it, and that's what makes it very difficult. Apolitical Center 69 again. Any idea what is the value of gold, gems, precious stones found in Padmanabhaswamy temple? Well, I gave you the big picture, right? 35,000 tons of gold. Padmanabhaswamy temple, Tirupati temple, Kashi temple. There are a couple more temples. There's actually an article. I think that is also given as a link in the reference links. Do read those links to get you the top 4 temples that have huge, that are believed to have huge deposits of gold. Next one. 𝗟𝗡𝗞𝗦 wants to know, if US pegs dollar to gold, then China can get a breather given the amount of gold they have. It's not straightforward. We need to analyze the consequences of this geopolitically. Oh yes, I agree. See, the other problem is there has to be an independent body that can verify the amount of gold that each country claims to have. Remember, we have also talked about an artificial metal that China has created that looks like gold, but it is not gold. You get the idea, right? Next one. 𝗥𝗙𝗙𝗏 Varan wants to know, Sree Iyer ji, there is another gold reserves has been emptied or significant amount of them stolen from the vault from US based news channels. This is very sad. Yes, indeed, there have been claims. I think that is the reason why Trump said he is going to visit Fort Knox. He will take he'll take a look at it for himself to assure himself that everything is okay. I kind of doubt it though. There were talks about Clinton, during Clinton era, that there were some 1 to 4 million. I talked about this in the first episode on gold. Do take a look at that to get an idea of what it was. Next one, please. John Wisdom wants to know, where is the official equivalent of Fort Knox in India? I don't know. I believe it is the Reserve Bank of India building, but I could be wrong about it. Next one, please. Maithili wants to know, Sriji, has Kolar gold mine started to mine gold? Well, Kolar gold mine has some gold, but the cost to extract the gold, if it is more than the price of gold, then it becomes not so useful, right? So there is that thing, you know, how much do you take, how much ore do you have to extract to get actual gold out of it? I don't think Kolar is a very, very good source of gold in that way. Manoj Soma wants to know, is it true that Uttar Pradesh is going back to old pension scheme, sir? If so, why, sir? Why have Himachal, which went to bankrupt after implement? I don't know. These are all rumors. I don't think Yogi would do that. It's a huge burden on the exchequer. Next one, please. I think that's all we have. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this thing useful. I thought this follow-up was needed. We went back to our research team. We did all the research and presented you all the data. You may want to go back and watch this thing in slow motion, especially to get the grasp of numbers that we have presented here. Thanks for watching. Please share, subscribe, and also like our videos. Namaskar.